Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to All We Do Is Talk. We're here to talk about safeties. Moody, Isaiah, how are we doing today?
What's good, y'all? End of list week, rounding out the defensive players with one of the most important positions in your secondary, but somehow still one of the least important, least valuable positions in the
I
NFL.
actually think the value of the safety position is going to be that has to start changing very very soon. These guys are becoming as valuable as corners because it's not, of course, not on the same level, but like look at the last few Super Bowl champions, last few great defenses. Elite safety play is always part of great defenses, and that's just because
They've also had elite corners, though.
yeah. So is it a coincidence that it's usually both? No, and I think it's easier for corners to be great by themselves. Safety corners are more likely to be great by themselves than safeties are. Safeties usually need a little bit of help around them, which is why you're not. I wouldn't call it the most important position. But if you got a great safety, that is such a luxury for your defense.
All right, boys, let's get right into it. Let's start with our honorable mentions.
All right, so I'll go ahead and take it away first. At honorable mention, first one out, Adrian Amos in Green Bay. He wasn't a guy I was super duper high on. The Green Bay brought him in. I thought he was a very, very good player in Chicago, but I didn't think he was like a game changer. But he showed up to Green Bay the last couple of years, and he's been absolutely outstanding for them. He's been a seamless fit into that defense, and he's been a high production, high ball player for that team. He's not really a high interceptions guy, but solid tackler, guy who blankets guys in coverage. Guy, he doesn't really get tested with a whole bunch of targets because that's how good he is in coverage, and he's just solid, just a really really solid football player. Kevin Byard, a guy who a couple years ago was probably the best safety in the NFL, but age and injuries and his overall injury problems because he wasn't a really really big guy to begin with have kind of like brought down his overall production on a year to year basis.
He's got something to prove.
He's got something to prove. He's a veteran guy who he's sitting on the point of, all right, am I about to fall off this cliff to role player status, or am I going to be able to have a couple of more really, really high quality veteran Pro Bowl years? Anthony Harris, the safety from Minnesota who went to Philly. I like him a lot. I thought he was a really, really productive player next to Harrison Smith the last couple of years. They let him out. The safety market is
Harrison Smith in Philly?
I thought I said Anthony Harris.
Is Harrison Smith there in Philly to help him?
No, Harrison Smith is not there in Philly to help him out. But I do think the Philly's going to be running a scheme that fits him. He's a split safety type of guy. He's more a guy who takes away a half of the field than a single safety guy, which is why he's more of an honorable mention than a top 10 guy. But he more than a solid tackler. Like Adrian Amos, really, really, really good in coverage, makes plays when they're brought to him. But obviously, like you said, Harrison, he was playing with an elite guy, so maybe he was getting brought up by a great defense around him. So we'll see how he looks in a secondary that isn't as talented. I put both these guys, the Bills duo, on here: Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde. I didn't put either of them individually in my top 10, but they might be the best safety unit in the NFL together. They were both all pros a couple years ago. They've kind of tapered off into just very good players now, but they're still very, very good football players. And last but not least, the guy whose most famous play is him getting ran out by DK Metcalf. But Budda Baker, who was a really, really solid box safety nickel cornerback for the Cardinals. Poor man Tyrann Mathieu, but he's finally this past year turned those solid plays into interceptions, fumble recoveries, forced turnovers, while still showing the impressive instincts and jumping ability on interceptions, and really, really solid playing man against tight ends and running backs and slot receivers and all of that. He's a guy who should be emerging on this list. He had a really, really good year last year. He got paid. You expect him to be a frequent member on this list in the coming years.
All right. I've got a couple of the same guys. So Kevin Byard, guy who was flashing, underrated for so long, and then some injuries hit, and now we're waiting to see if he's got a second half to come. That's basically all it is for him. Jordan Poyer, a guy that I thought he's good. He doesn't flash, and I think he's clearly the third best player in that secondary. Mm-hmm. But like you said, him and Micah Hyde, who I have Micah Hyde in my top 10. So I think they are the best duo of safeties in the league. Mm-hmm. Budda Baker, man, that man is short and runs stubby, as we saw when DK Metcalf tracked him down.
Anyone would let that with DK Metcalf chasing after
him. I mean, like his coverage is getting better, but I think his coverage leaves a lot to be desired. but great tackler for a guy his size. Great in that hook zone.
I think he's a good zone, underneath zone guy. I think he's got really good instincts down there, but a man-to-man guy, not as much.
Did you also? So we have Jordan Poyer, Buda Baker, and Kevin Byard. Now some other guys. I had Devin McCourty. He just missed out of my list. I think he's hit the wall. But he brings veteran leadership and he gets people lined up. He's in his. Who's the guy with the beard that played for Baltimore and the Chargers?
Oh, Eric Weddle.
Yeah, he's reached that point of his career where he's just a veteran leader and knows what he's doing, but he can be taken advantage of because of lack of athleticism. Marcus May for the Jets. Finally broke out when Jamal Adams left town. Just need to see it again. He's on his franchise tag, so he'll be playing as hard as he can to get paid. But I think he has a higher ceiling than Jamal Adams because he can actually cover.
Marcus May made my top 10. I think he's a really, really good football player.
And lastly, I've got the guy who could easily be number one on this list. I know Moody's probably going to list him still, but this guy, injuries find this guy like they're nothing. I just got to see him stay healthy because he just hasn't been.
He has to be in your top 10 no matter what.
He hasn't played in 2 years.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. He hasn't played in 2 years.
Like so you said, his range is honorable mention to 1. Like, when he plays, he's the best.
But if he don't play again, if he gets hurt this year and he doesn't play again,
you hate to see it.
So I've got Derwin James, but like I don't think he's I think he's a little overrated. I think he's a more souped up Jamal Adams with some coverage ability because we've seen him doing some of that single high safety stuff, but I think his game, Moody's gonna break him down though, but I think he has everything in his toolbox. Just does nothing like at the top 2 level, but does everything at a top 3 level. So he might not be the 1 or 2 guy, but he's a top 3 coverage guy, top 3 tackler, linebacker stuff, top 3 in the slot. Yeah, Derwin James, but we said, like I said about the tight ends, Hunter Henry is a guy that's always hurt. There's a guy almost as hurt as much as Hunter Henry. His name is Derwin James. He hasn't played in 2 years. So, and if he comes back and the injuries have sapped him of everything.
It hasn't looked that way so far, but we'll see.
We'll see. But yeah, Derwin James.
Eric, what you think about those honorable mentions?
I think your take on Derwin James is
he hasn't played in 2 years. Not just 1 year. He hasn't played in 2 years. We haven't seen him since.
If Andrew Luck came back today, he'd be your top 5 quarterback.
No, that's different. He doesn't play a physically demanding position.
Derwin James quit because of the physical demands of the position.
Yeah, exactly. But this is different. If he plays and he's protected, he doesn't have to be physically beat up.
Yeah.
Derwin James has played strong safety where he's a thumper. So I think
he should just be like.
Let's save the Derwin James talk for where Moody has him. So
let's be real. Like he hasn't played in 2 years. Like let's be real. Like the last time he played, I was still in college. It's been a while since he's played.
I have our alma
but what about the guys? Kevin Byard, Buda Baker, Jordan Poyer, Marcus May, Devin McCourty. 2 more. Anybody there
Buda Baker is most known for him getting caught. So like that automatically takes you out of the top 10.
Yeah, unfortunately, you hate to see that's what happens. He's just a small, not special athlete kind of guy. It's hard for him to be a top 10 guy, but they paid him like 1, so I expect to see that kind of production out of him this year.
Yeah.
But I think we can go ahead and get into I'll go ahead and get to the 10 through 6. At number 10, I got the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. But yeah, Tyrann Mathieu. It's been a couple years since he's been that dude. It has been 20.
Caught an interception in the Super Bowl if the referee weren't cheating.
But he didn't. And so Tom Brady got to go call him names and get him out of his game. And suddenly Tyrann Mathieu, all I said was names.
I don't know what he didn't call him what Tyrann said he called him, but he called him something that he didn't see coming. He called him something. And he threw Tyrann, and after that point, Tyrann Mathieu was never the same in that game.
Yeah, and Tyrann Mathieu is just I still think Tyrann Mathieu is a good player, but he was always a little bit overrated. I think his college status coupled with the team he was playing on kind of elevated him to an era that he wasn't really a part of.
He changed our defense to a championship caliber defense.
I don't know if I just think they need to get better safeties, but I don't think it was a championship caliber defense. I think they have a Patrick Mahomes offense. that's what I'm going to contribute that defense to. But I still think
Derwin James over him. Derwin James
is way better than Tyrann Mathieu. At number 9, I got Marcus May from the New York Jets. Obviously, he was the guy playing all the free safety stuff. While Jamal Adams have to go be the the Tasmanian devil in the middle of the field, pass rusher type of guy. Marcus May then with Jamal Adams out, got to go play both. Was leading both still. He's a guy who I was praying to hit the free agency market, but the Jets didn't let him out the door because great safety play is hard to find. He's a guy who seems to be entering his prime and about to be just a stalwart on this list for the next 5+ years. And number 8, I got his former teammate, got new bag, Jamal Adams. As you can see, as we all saw last year, Jamal Adams got a little bit exposed in coverage.
Often.
He's clearly not a guy who can be covering receivers. I do think he can still handle tight ends and backs to the backfield a little bit better job. But the Seahawks were so starving for pass rush last year, and they basically had to use Jamal Adams in that role. And that's his best skill. That's his best skill. His best skill.
Oh, trust me, I know.
As he ran through Saquon Barkley and took the ball from Daniel Jones 70 yards to the end zone.
He's living off of that play. What people think Jamal Adams is because of that play.
But Jamal Adams is an outstanding. He's an outstanding in the box safety. I think he's the best in the box safety in the NFL still. Physical presence, forces incompletions, forces turnovers. He just isn't great in coverage. And if you're not even, I think he's average to below average in coverage. And if you're that low, it's hard for you to be one of the 5 best safeties in the NFL. And number 7, I got another man who's famous for being infamous. That's Marcus Williams from the New Orleans Saints. We all know the miracle in Minnesota when he missed Stephon Diggs by a mile, took out his teammate, and ran into him.
That's an elite safety now, and he was pretty good.
He's only missed 2 tackles since that game. 2. That's a man who said, I won't be making, he doesn't make the same mistake twice. You got to give him credit for that. He's also outstanding in coverage as well. He's probably lower on this list because of that play. It's just hard to get it out of your head. But
what people forget is that he caught the interception that got him back into the game.
Yeah, like Marcus Williams is an outstanding football player. Like another guy who's on who I think requires other good defensive players around him for him to be at his best. I don't think he'd be great around a bunch of bad guys, which is why I have him 7. But on a talented defense like New Orleans, he's just another key in the call, another very, very solid player. I think he's also playing on the franchise tag this year. And at number 6, I got John Johnson III, formerly of the LA Rams, now in the Cleveland Browns. He's a guy who injury issues beat him up, down, left, and right. But when he's out there, he's a top 3 productive safety in the league. So take a little bit off for the injuries. The Cleveland Browns got an absolute steal in getting him for the price that they got him. If he's able to be healthy for them, that could turn their defense into championship caliber. That's how good he is. He's solid.
But is he better than Tyrann Mathieu?
I think he is. I think his size. I think he's bigger. I think he's a better tackler overall. Tyrann Mathieu still has like the veteran leadership of the guy. I think Tyrann.
That's what they're bringing in Josh Johnson to do, really be their veteran leader.
But John Johnson is still young and very, very good though. He's still got his youthful athleticism and stuff. Now he deals with injuries a lot. He like Bob Sanders back in the day. He's a guy who, when he's out there, the defense is elite. When he's not, it's just you can notice the difference. And I think that's the type of impact John Johnson's going to have for the Cleveland Browns this year. So I'll go through my list again. At 10, I got Tyrann Mathieu. At 9, I got Marcus May. At 8, I got Jamal Adams. At 7, I got Marcus Williams. And 6, I got John Johnson III for the Cleveland Browns.
I mean, I've got a lot of the similar guys in that section of the list. So let me just knock them out. At number 10, we have the infamous Marcus Williams from his situation in Minnesota. I'm sorry that he has to live with that for the rest of his life, because that probably was their last real chance.
The next year was their last real chance, but it's unfortunate. He's one of those good split safety guys, good in coverage. I don't know if he's coming down to cover guys man to man, but like at this point, we're looking for safeties. We're looking for guys who fit a scheme and a role. He's a good split safety for cover 2, cover 4, which cover 4 has become really popular because I was looking at a video and it said that it's really good at stopping the Shanahan wide zone system. So a lot of these split safeties have become more valuable. And Marcus Williams, I think he's a little overrated. Moody has him at 7. I think he's barely top 10, which is about close, but I think I'm a little bit lower on him because I do think he's been taken advantage of sometimes. Now, he don't miss tackles no more. But after you blow a tackle like that, like he did in Minnesota, you're going to have to make up for that without missing no more tackles. No doubt.
And number 9, I have Micah Hyde, who I think is the best behind Derwin James, who's not on my list because of injuries. Micah Hyde's probably the best do-it-all safety.
He's great in the nickel.
probably the best nickel safety. He's better than Tyron Matthews at doing that job. He's probably the best nickel safety. Plays high, free split with Jordan Poyer. Caught that interception that turned the game around for Dak Prescott against Dak Prescott a few years ago. I can't believe, like Casey Hayward, Green Bay just let him walk out the door, and he went on to become an all-pro caliber safety. Like, back then, I think a lot of people forgot he was a former corner full-time corner, turned safety when he got to Buffalo. But, like, people were questioning where he was going. He fell off for a little bit, but he went to Buffalo, revived his career. They really know how to develop players there. I'm really high on him. And like we said earlier, I think him and Jordan Poyer lead the way for the best safety duo in the league. Number 8, Jamal Adams. I mean, there's not a more overrated player in the league than Jamal Adams, and his bag says it.
They gave him QB assets for him.
Yeah,
bro.
Everything Seattle has invested to get Jamal Adams
crossover back
is going to come back to bite them if Russell Wilson ever really gets upset and demands out. But I mean, I'm going to say some good stuff about him. I mean, he had 9 sacks last year, but I don't pay the safety to sack the quarterback. So, I mean, dropped 2 point-blank interceptions. I question if he even knows how to play. I'm joking. He can cover some people. Anybody who's good at getting open, he can't cover. Yeah. So we'll just leave him alone there. But Jamal Adams, he's still top 10 safety, and he's got a hell of a bag. So he's the highest paid safety of all time?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Wow. The Jets finally got made out on Ben. It's like on somebody. Number 7, I have John Johnson. He's actually famous for making the play that buried New Orleans buried New Orleans when there was some pass interference going on Michael Thomas, and he stepped up and caught that interception on Drew Brees. And like, I think he's another one of these split safety, cover 4, cover 2 safeties, and he's going to fit perfectly in Cleveland if everybody gets going right. I don't know what type of role they're going to use him in, for sure, because I don't know if he has the single high safety coverage ability.
I mean, that's what they tried to dump it for, but we'll see what come out that Achilles injury.
Yeah, John Johnson. I mean, I like him as a player. A guy who I like more, number 6, is Adrian Amos. I think he's the best of the split safety, cover 2, cover 4 guys. I slept on him. He was good in Chicago, but I thought Eddie Jackson was the guy making things happen, and Khalil Mack and all the good players they had there. But he's moved on to Green Bay, and he's the only guy that's continued to have success since the split happened between them and Fangio in Chicago and him in Chicago moving to Green Bay. He's the only guy that's still playing at the same level as they were when they were all clicking on all cylinders, except for toss Khalil Mack to the side because Khalil Mack can play good anywhere. But I thought Moody underrated him a little bit for Marcus Williams, but I think Adrian Amos he does the same things as Marcus Williams, John Johnson. They're just
He gets the least amount of picks though, which is why I had him a little bit lower, just because when it comes to safety, you got to be able to get your hands on picks. I think he's got like 3 in his 6. I think he's got like 9 in his 6 years or something like that. Not a bad amount, but just for a guy who's so good in coverage, you think you get more turnovers out of that.
All right, that's our 10 through 6. We got a lot of the same guys that we've all.
Who was your favorite of those?
I mean,
teams?
Yeah, I mean, I think y'all nailed it on Jamal Adams. I think you got to nick him.
We're going to continue to pour on John. He said, who's the best? And he said, now it's time to keep pouring on Jamal.
I mean, just because, like, his coverage is subpar. Like, he's a box safety. Like, he has more sacks than some linebackers do, which is good, but, like, it's not a stat you are looking for as a safety is sacks.
He's got to make an impact the way they use his strengths, so you got to be able to give him credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, like he somehow is great at stopping the run as a safety.
Over coverage.
But yeah, who are some of the other ones y'all named?
I had. What you think about me having time after y'all started my top 5?
I don't think that's absurd. I mean, I think it's wild you have him at 10, but
he's going off a little bit of a name value and playing on a great team.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, obviously Father Time is undefeated and he's been in the league for a long time.
It's crazy that Badge has been around the league for a while now.
Yeah, and he obviously is still very serviceable. I mean, I think he really helped when he first got to Kansas City. He really helped that defense, and still does. But
turned him into a championship caliber defense with lots of help from Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, if Patrick Mahomes is considered part of your defense. But yeah, I mean, 10 is not. I don't think is outrageous. I'm interested to see where Isaiah has him in the top 5. But yeah, I like both y'all's lists.
All right, so we'll just go ahead and keep it. You got any thoughts before I keep it pushing into the top 5?
John Johnson. He showed.
I think that's going to be a big. Like the Rams had a #1 defense last year, and I think the loss of John Johnson is going to be a big reason why they'll progress.
He's in Cleveland now, right?
Yeah. Number 5, I got the man from the Pittsburgh gave a first-round pick for him to from the Miami Dolphins. Minkah Fitzpatrick, the do-it-all guy from Alabama, who's doing the same thing in Pittsburgh in a similar scheme. He's playing free, he's playing nickels all over the field. He's just so smart. He's just such a naturally talented football player. He gets turnovers at a high level. He's another one. Although sometimes he does look like one of those guys in Pittsburgh who just schemed into plays.
Who knows what's going on? They're all playmakers, and some of them's got it. Somebody's got to get.
Someone's got to get the credit for making plays in Pittsburgh. But I thought Minkah Fitzpatrick was outstanding before they even gave him away. Miami was playing him out of position at more of like a cornerback role, where he's more of a playmaking ball hawk type of player. But Minkah Fitzpatrick is one of the best ball safeties in the league, like in terms of getting his hands on the ball, attacking the football. He's fine as a run defender, run stopper. He'll make the open field tackle when he needs to. I wouldn't call it a strength of his, but he's more than solid at it. To be in the Alabama secondary, you got to be at least a solid tackler. Yeah, Minkah Fitzpatrick. At number 4, I got Derwin James, and he's only this low because this is as low as I could possibly put him because of the injuries. Because
he
when
played in 2 years.
The last time Derwin James played, he was the best safety in the NFL. Like that's how good his potential is to be. And I think he's gonna step right. He's looked incredibly healthy during the offseason. They're in training camp. He hasn't played in preseason, but he's looked good in joint practices.
Why would you even take a chance?
Yeah, why would you even take a chance? Now, it's unfortunate because Derwin James didn't really have these kind of injury issues. In college, his body seemed like he would be built to handle the NFL rigors, but sometimes things just happen. Hopefully, I look forward to watching him play this year, seeing him bounce back, because when he plays, I think he's the most dynamic safety in the NFL, and he might be one of the most dynamic secondary players, period. You can play him anywhere. You can play him as some nickel linebacker, some dime linebacker, some safety, cornerback. I think he can do it all. I think he can cover them all, and he's also outstanding in the run defense.
His favorite position is IR.
Hey man, I'm not gonna. The man gets hurt, bro. It sucks because Derwin James not playing these. We missed out on Derwin James not playing these last couple years. And number 3, I got Jesse Bates from Cincinnati. I think he's the second best free safety in the NFL. He was the only good. They had William Jackson too, but he was on that Cincinnati secondary, and he was just. He made up for so much. He's the eraser for that Cincinnati secondary. He makes up for so many mistakes that those people make. He overcomes a lot of bad play from his corners, linebackers, whatever. He can also move around. He can guard the slot. He can play split. He can play single high. He just does it all. He had a breakout. He had the best season of his career last year, and I just expect him to continue to be on that upward trajectory. He's just, it's surprising that the Bengals seem to be so hesitant on paying him. I think a guy of his talent and a guy of his ability on the field deserves to be getting the money Jamal Adams just received. He's an outstanding football player. At number 2, the old school man who's been doing it for a long time, Mr. Harrison Smith. Still got him at 2. Shout out to the white boys everywhere. Harrison Smith is still out here getting the job done. People said he had a dial year last year. Still had 5 picks, 8 pass deflections, couple forced fumbles. Like he just gets the job done. He's outstanding in that split safety role. He's a big hammer in the box. He can separate man from ball in coverage. He can separate him from the running backs when he's making hits. But he's still more than solid, very good as a coverage player. He makes plays on the football with outstanding instincts. He's the leader of that secondary. He's the caller. He gets everybody in the right spot as well. He's just been one of the elite safeties in the NFL for a very, very long time. But at number 1, I really don't think there's any debate about it. In Denver, Justin Simmons with Vic Fangio. He's become an absolute star in the NFL. He's a guy who he gives him like an Ed Reed type of closer when it comes to like at the end of games. He's a guy who you can't throw the ball near because he will find his way to the football. He has great eyes. He has great feel. He's the best overall complete safety in the game. He's just as good as Manning he is in zone. He can play the run. He's an outstanding open field tackle. He doesn't miss tackles. He's great in coverage in the nickel. He's great as a free guy over the top. He's a guy that you could put on an island. He's just an outstanding talent. I think it's him and Derwin James duking it out for like the top two talented overall safeties in the NFL.
Except one has played the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we get it. He's hurt. We got it. But if he's healthy and playing this year,
it's been so long since that's been a real. And he was hurt the first year too, so he's been hurt all 3 years. So I'll believe it when I see it. But I'm not hating on him. He's still a great player. I'm just saying, like in 3 years, he's been hurt 75% of the time.
I mean, that is how for putting Saquon in your top 5. We ain't seen him since his rookie year, basically.
No, Saquon Barkley had 1,000 yards, back-to-back 1,000 yards. Don't forget that. He still had a good second season, even with being hurt for 5 to 6 games. I mean, we've got the same 5 except for 1. So at 5, I've got Minkah Fitzpatrick. My only gripe with Minkah Fitzpatrick is that he's so overrated by Pittsburgh Steelers fans, like so many players on their defense. And I didn't like the way he pitched out of Miami because he was drafted top 5 to play cornerback. And B, I thought he was more of a corner than Jalen Ramsey, but he can't play corner at all. He bitched and complained about he went top 5 too. He bitched and complained about being in Miami, and he got his way out. And Pittsburgh played him at free safety. And he touted how versatile he was in the pre-draft process. And then he got to the NFL, and all of a sudden he didn't. He
wasn't an out a key thing was he wasn't an outside corner in Alabama. Like he was fine out there, but against NFL guys, if you're just fine in college, then you're going to get torched in the NFL. He was always more of a nickel guy, lines up against tight end guy, but he can do those type of things though.
Yeah, he does it every now and then in Pittsburgh, but mostly now he's
a ball hawk because Pittsburgh's got so many other dudes to do those jobs.
Still a great player. Number 4, I've got Harrison Smith. He definitely had a down year last year. He's definitely going to continue to fall because I don't know how his athleticism has hit the wall.
Still had 5 picks last year. Still had 5+ pass breakups, a couple forced fumbles.
Landon Collins almost won defensive player.
But we see Harrison Smith been doing this for almost 10 years now.
Yeah, I think like we finally seen this is the first time in a while he's played behind a bad defense where he's like the only good thing on it, and his play has decreased and diminished a hair. I'm not saying he's fallen all the way off, but
I think it's more other guys have stepped up.
I've seen him getting beat a little bit more often than he used to. I think he's becoming more. I think he's got a future of more of that hook zone, strong safety type. So it's going to be interesting to see where they put around them because their secondary's gotten even worse because they cut Gladney.
They got Pat Peterson,
and they're going to get. They don't have Williams no more. He's in Cincinnati. So I'm interested to see what Harrison Smith's future holds because I did see a diminished drop in play. And number 3, I have the Honey Badge. I thought he was overrated because some people are saying he's the best safety in the league. Some people say he's the second best. I mean, I dropped him to 3. But let's not act like the Honey Badger ain't the Honey Badger still. There ain't a player in the league with better instincts and better leadership ability at the safety position than Tyrann Matthew. He completely changed.
That sounds like a pretty way to say old vet. Old vet. That's what it sounds like. You're talking about a guy who's an old vet.
And I think we're using some recency bias. Yes, Tom Brady was single-handedly picking on him in the playoffs. Yes, Antonio Brown totally routed him up and put him in the torture chamber offensively. But this is still the Honey Badger. I think he's overrated, but clearly I got to come in here and step his name, shine some light on his name. It's still the Honey Badge. He changed defense. He changed that defense in Kansas City. He gave it some swagger. He brings swagger and leadership and some better instincts he's got the best instincts of all the safeties in the league. And he still does that slot corner stuff really well, just as good as a Micah Hyde. I think Micah Hyde's got better size, so you get some more out of it, but it's still Honey Badge. And number 2, I've got Jesse Bates III. I have to make sure he wasn't the second or the first, but Jesse Bates III, he broke out last year, and it's really easy to see how good a safety is on a bad defense because teams want to make all the plays. Because he's making all the plays, yeah. So wherever William Jackson wasn't, Jesse Bates were. Those are the 2 people that flashed on that defense. Those are Carl Lawson. Those were about the only 2 things they had on that defense. And Jesse Bates really impressed me. I saw him firsthand because the Giants did play him this year, and he flies around and he makes plays. but I think he's the poor man version of the number one player who was also my number one safety, who I think is borderline a top 10 player. He's just a few more good years away.
This the guy right here.
Justin Simmons is the best safety in the league. He's doing that. He's not Ed Reed because nobody is.
Yeah.
Earl Thomas is probably the closest thing to Ed Reed we've seen. But Justin Simmons is best doing that free high. He's the best in the game doing the free high one safety stuff. He can do some matchup night in the slot, one cornerback on tight ends. I've seen him guard some receivers, some running backs out the backfield, and always around the ball. Always around the football. Not much more argument except for the fact that Moody took all the pop from Tyrann Matthews really with this list, but he made sure Tyrann Matthews can't be in the top 5. But Derwin James don't even got to play. Derwin James don't even got to show up.
That's how talented Derwin James is. That's how talented
but you still got to play. The availability is the best availability.
And it's for 2021. And I'm saying I'm just predicting Derwin James to be available, and he gonna be out there getting the job done.
If I was a betting man, I would have put lots of money on that. But Eric, go ahead. Let's talk about Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates and Harrison Smith. Those are look like the guys, or Minka Fitzpatrick, who are the consensus top 5.
Harrison Smith, obviously Notre Dame boy, white guy. I always gotta
show some love.
Yes, sir. And I don't know. Simmons is obviously clearly the best safety in the league. He can do it all. Like, not many safeties you can feel comfortable just single high. Just be like, go be our center fielder. Make sure nothing gets past you. I think 3 is a little high for the Honey Badger, because I do feel like he's taken some steps back.
He hasn't been that in like 3 years.
Yeah, he's definitely.
Who was that the Super Bowl year?
That was 2 years ago, but I think he was better in 18, and then he's been good these last couple years. I don't know if he's been the special game changer player that he used to.
Let them not take that interception away from him that they robbed him of.
It was a tip drill. It's not even like
he came out of nowhere to make that play happen.
Yeah. But also Minka Fitzpatrick, I like him a lot. I mean, at the beginning of the year, he was a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. He was going on a tear.
It's just so many dudes on that defense.
But what happened? Like I'll say, what happened when a couple calls came out of the defense? They felt everybody that was looking like they were this type of all-pro player dropped back down to we just some Pro Bowl players. Yeah. We missed those guys. So it's really hard to rate that. Pittsburgh guys and Baltimore guys, in my opinion, are always overrated because the system is so good. And New England guys, because the system is just so good on defense that I don't know if it's the system making those guys look good or if the guys are just really good. So that's my knock on rating those guys, because those 3 there's no teams that have more overrated defensive players than New England, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore, even though they're all on our defensive list. They were all over the place all throughout them. On all the defensive side lists, but I mean that's it for those guys. What about damn it?
Sorry.
I said we like
Jesse Bates.
Jesse Bates, yeah.
You get to watch a lot of Jesse Bates last year, Eric?
I mean, kind of.
Be honest, who really won?
It's Cincinnati. I listened to one Cincinnati game on radio when we played them.
I watched him a couple times, like live. Oh, he was great in that Pittsburgh game. But the second Pittsburgh game. But he had a really amazing play against Tennessee. I watched this game. Oh, he was single-handedly the reason that they stayed in the game and upset the Tennessee, because they beat Tennessee last year. He was making hella plays in that game. But that's a very underrated player. Anything else for the safeties, Eric?
No, I think we covered them pretty well.
Yeah, it's pretty consistent.
It's a pretty – safety's not very deep. I was just looking through the list of guys. I don't really see anybody who – I like Juan Thornhill in Kansas City a lot. I think he has a chance to emerge as being one of these a guy on this. Jeremy Chin, yeah, that's a great name, absolutely. I'm not gonna sleep on this name. He didn't make a huge impact in year 1, but he's in the Belichick scheme. Kyle Duggar in New England. He seems to be a guy who's starting to figure it out more and more. It's going to take guys in that New England scheme a while to get up to speed, especially from the level of competition he came from. But I expect Kyle Duggar to have a bigger impact this year. I love Grant Delpit in Cleveland. It's unfortunate that he tore his Achilles, but I think that when healthy, he was the most talented safety in his class.
Yeah, not on my list, but go ahead and continue.
But yeah, those are just a couple of the.
Oh yeah, I forgot I did have a section of young guys on the rise because there's so many young safeties. I got the 2 guys in New York. Xavier McKinney was one of my safeties that I was higher on in his class. Missed last year with a broken foot, but he's back this year. Watch out for him. He could easily be jumping into like a Pro Bowl caliber player. Jabril Peppers is in that Jamal Adams
He ain't young.
role. Huh?
He ain't young.
He hasn't got paid yet. So like he's younger than Jesse. He's about a little bit.
He's in the Njoku class, so that's 17.
So he's coming up like he's in the same class as Denzel Ward, who we say was a young guy. So he's not a young player because he was a little older coming out, but he's still like young to the league. So and he's in a contract year, but he's in that Jamal Adams, Landon Collins role. So we don't really know what more you're getting out of him. He's more a linebacker than safety. Juan Thornhill, like Moody said, he's got next of like free safeties. He's going to break out sooner or later. Jeremy Chin fell into a couple fumbles to make him look a little bit better than he was.
Don't you dare outroll my man Jeremy Chin.
He's on my young guys to rise list.
Just because you pick off Kirk Cousins don't mean.
No, he picked up a couple balls that Kirk Cousins just put on the ground. Like he looked around and he was like, "Oh shit!" And then Chuck Clark in Baltimore.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Chuck Clark in Baltimore.
He's touched in the face by Earl Thomas.
He's a strong safety type, but he's like one of those split safety, strong safety type. But like, yeah, watch out for Xavier McKinney. He's my guy. For him and Juan Thornhill and Jeremy Chin. Jeremy Chin would be the 3 guys I'd say watch out. Those guys have rockets coming there, strapped up their ass. They're moving up the chains coming up soon. Anything else, Aaron?
No, man, I'm good.
Take us home.
That was a great line to close on.
Rocket ass. All right, boys. I'll see y'all.
All right.